The Alien Mummies. Pretty sure this guy is your alien mummy taxidermist. His real name is Paul Ronceris, and I think he has taken to trying to hide his identity and removed his website recently. Because the Nazca authorities are after whoever took these out of the country. And here's his now defunct website from 2022. He started his claim that these were Nazca-made archaeological puppets. Probably because he could make them and sell them that way. But when no one would take his claim seriously after looking at them, yes, we've been here before. Jamie swoops onto the scene and suddenly they are 99.999,999% extraterrestrial. This is back in 2017. This whole hoax has been repackaged a second time because of the spike in UFO/UAP interest. He also claims on his site that the pseudoscientist Thierry Hameen was the one that found these. But Hameen doesn't confirm this as far as I can tell. My French sucks. 6 years ago, here is your original hoaxer Paul Ronceris, who has now teamed up with Jamie to repackage these things to you as aliens. But let's look at the science that everyone goes on and on about. Victoria is bones mashed together from human and animals with all the same kinetic and anatomical issues as all the others. They did a much better job on symmetry with this one, but the X-ray shows the femurs to be preposterously thin, like gravity and the slightest torque would snap it thin. As for the DNA report, for this one, all the results come from Victoria's hand. One sample had 60% human DNA identified and another sample was anomalous and had 90% unmapped DNA. Do you see how these results can't coexist within the same genome? Something can't be 60% one thing and 90% another unless the bones in the hand are made from different sources. And before we get all nutty about the unmapped bit, straight from the report. However, NCBI databases does not contain all the known organisms existing in the world. So there could be a lot of possible organisms that account for the unmatched DNA, or could be some regions excluded. Or difficult to sequence, common to many of the organisms accounting for the samples in the applied protocols for the genomes reported at NCBI. Josephina. Again, the bones don't match from one side of the body to the other. She has human tibias where femurs should be. If I recall, Josephina was the one who had high bean DNA 40%. Weird they don't have these DNA results on their webpage, since I thought they released them after the hearing, as many of us have seen them. Maria is just a basic ass human who underwent cranial modification during life. Very common there and in many other places in the world. And then the hoaxers changed the fingers and the toes. Everything else about the anatomy is entirely human. You can easily see this in the first video under the video section. Let's look at the Paleo Lab Lakehead University report, since they are one of the most reputable and are familiar with DNA from archaeological contexts. They say in the report, there is evidence of DNA contamination. Palm of right hand contains DNA from more than one individual. Finger of left foot contains DNA from more than one individual. Vertebrae contains DNA from more than one individual. Finger of left foot and vertebrae show evidence of sharing a common source of DNA. And Genetech said, this result indicates that the sample Maria foot contained DNA. However, DNA contained in Maria foot may have been partially destroyed. The reason for the above may be due to prolonged exposure to environmental conditions such as high humidity and high temperature. In addition to all the glaring red flags associated with the history of these things, this exact hoax having been done before. And the paleontology Cliff Miles, or whatever his name is, either doesn't exist or is a fraud. I searched for his academic publications and they don't exist. I'm an archaeologist. I know how to find them if they existed. The issue is that the science has already been done and Jamie and his team are misrepresenting or ignoring results. The DNA shows these things are sourced from multiple organisms. The X-ray shows the identifiable bones from said different sources as well as some serious goofs in putting the puppet together. Like a femur for an arm and a complete lack of symmetry. And yet, I have had the mods even tell me I am part of the problem, out of my depth, and stifling science. Yeesh. There is very clearly a few accounts in this sub which are here only to spam these mummy posts and to try and exhaust us critical thinkers. I can't do anything about that. My only hope is to try and stop people from getting swindled. Unless you know anatomy, no, you probably can't spot all the errors. Unless you know a bit about genetics and can read a DNA report, no, you probably can't verify their claims. But for the love of God, please try lol. These posts saying DNA proves 100% these are alien are pure nonsense and I don't want to see anyone fall for it. And now a caveat. If these things were archaeological, that is insanely fascinating. Why would the Nazca make these? That would be a big deal. But unfortunately, the story of where these things came from is so muddy that I do believe they are modern fakes made out of archaeological bones. But we can't even have that conversation because we are constantly talking about them being actual aliens despite all the evidence to the contrary. I have done and said what I can. And I will now leave the sub to its doom in regards to these mummies. I have wasted way too many hours trying to catch all the misinformation in these never-ending mummy posts. I thought I could reach more people this way. Next time you see one, please be critical of the facts and conclusions made. Ask to see the data. Check for yourself. The DNA reports and X-rays are actually on the Gaia webpage. I assume the hoax is counting on people not bothering to verify or not knowing how to. But I highly suggest you check the actual data. That's the peer review process, verifying that the data supports the conclusion. In this case, it doesn't. Not at all. They are counting on people being lazy or dumb or both for this hoax to work. Don't prove them right. Check their sources and their data. It doesn't hold up. Post from user Tom Hanks Yo at Reddit.